So, hi guys, good evening. Sorry kayo sa ako naputol amo ang first nga broadcast, first link kay may mga technical difficulties and wala makibaw og ngano to. So, by the way, I am once again Carl Joshua Arbaladura and here with me is
Hi guys, I'm Queenie May Pargan, and I'm
and
happy to be joining here tonight with the live lecture with Carl and Sir Franz.
so mo siya guys, import nga kuan host kay ang atong isa ka host katong last nga episode kay na siya yung mga giasikaso sa ilaha. So by the way, welcome sa ato ang live lecture which is headed by Sir Franz and the title is
Tourism
Tourism
and
and
Hospitality
Hospitality
Risk,
Risk,
Crisis,
Crisis,
and
and
Recovery
Recovery
Management
Management.
amidst of COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes. So, Koy, kano ba mo nakita balik for like pila na ka months. So, kamusta na mga Koy?
Over these past few months, it's been tough and productive at the same time. Imagine, nara ka sa balay for how many months? But it was fine. Ikaw?
Mag-nosebleed man sa din. Okay, okay. Sweet English, oo. Pero anyways, to answer your question, well, so far, okay raman said ko and sometimes enjoying, sometimes kay dili kay enjoying sa online class.
Yeah.
And as you could see, kay murag mas linggo ta mga sinina bitaw karon. Murag mas nida ko o karong quarantine. So pero despite nga nag-lockdown ta, then sila tagpundo sa balay, right? Still happy magyapon ko and daghang mga butang nga wala na ko nabuhat sa una nga nabuhat na ako karon. Ikaw kay unsa may mga experiences nimo nga wala nimo nabuhat sa una pero nabuhat nimo karon?
Oh, nato isa ka nagtanong ko like ever since wala jud ko kasuway after how many months mo to niya kanang like crochet, reading
Wow.
books. What to?
Ako kasuy og crochet sa una pero ako na lang gikawat ang crochet sa ate para mo ipasa sa mga teacher. Well, ako kay kuan
Crochet is actually fun, good.
na it's kind of confusing man good and ganana bitaw ka. Pero sa akong part bitaw kay mas nagka-bonding mi sa akong family since
Yeah.
narami kanunay sa balay then mura bitaw feel na ko mas na strengthen or mas nagkaila mi sa balay nga nagpundo rami.
I totally agree with you. So, before we formally start tonight's live lecture, please help me welcome the department's OIC Dean, Miss Jovi G. Martin, to give us her opening message.
It's all watch this guys.
My warm wishes to everyone. On behalf of the Business Administration and Hospitality Management Department, I welcome you to the virtual presentation of Sir Franz Byron GUIUAN, who will talk about the tourism and hospitality risk crisis and recovery management amidst this pandemic. First of all, I would like to convey my heartfelt gratitude to Sir Franz, who sincerely initiated this talk for our dear students, for you, our dear students, and of course, for the general audience as well. Indeed, this pandemic disrupted almost all sectors of our economy, particularly in the hospitality and tourism industry in our beloved province. Looking into the long term implications of this crisis, the outlook of recovery remains highly uncertain. Although the government initiates actions to restore and reactivate the sector to protect jobs and businesses, but we don't know yet when this will really end. This initiative of Sir Franz is very timely for us to gain insight and information about our current situation, about the current situation of the tourism and hospitality management industry of our province, not only our province, but the entire country. Of course, I am looking forward that this talk will surely contribute to valuable information to help start building a community where everybody is sensible and well informed individuals. It's our pleasure to provide you um, timely and informative learning resources. And I'm so thankful. I am really grateful that we have Sir Franz in our department who is taking his initiative to find ways and to find means to provide you with um, different learning resources, even in this situation that we are facing right now. So enjoy learning, everyone, and God bless you all. Welcome to our um, virtual presentation.
Lubag sa cam na matiay. So that was our Dean of the Business and Hospitality Management of Crystal E College. So Ma'am Jovi, thank you so much. And sa tanang gipangsulti nimo, tinuod gito siya and very visible gito siya nowadays, especially kadto bitong naglisod ta open sa tong tourism or sa atoang kanang province itself, naglisod pa tawag restart or adapt to the new normal. So going to our topic for tonight's lecture. So the title is Tourism and Hospitality Risk, Crisis, and Recovery Management amidst of COVID-19 pandemic. So, Queen, yung sa may idea nimo about our topic tonight kay personally ako, wala jud ko idea kayo kung saan siya about. Maybe, would you mind like sharing your thoughts?
Ako, I think it talks about how to put safety of the tourists at first hand na with COVID-19 and unsay mga protocols or new measures nga atong sundon.
And kuan bitaw, since inyo mo nga wala jud ko idea kung saan siya about nga lecture. So, kinahanglan jud kaayo nga maminaw ta ani nga live lecture ni Sir Franz kay para ma-refresh or ma-inform ta sa kung unsa ang i-share ni Sir Franz and kung unsa mga new ways or kanang new protocols nga atong i-apply diri sa atong province, especially diri sa Panglao bitaw nga we are a tourist destination gyud. And also I hope nga in this lecture kay ma-include ang mga status sa different sectors like tourism sectors sa mga resort or owners or sa mga travel agencies. So for us to formally begin our live lecture for this evening, let us first introduce our lecturer. He is no other than our very own and the brainchild of Town Hall Talk 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Franz Byron B. GUIUAN.
Thank you so much, Carl, and thank you so much, Queenie. Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for taking time watching us live here from the island paradise of Panglao. And it's really timely to talk about the tourism and hospitality risk crisis and recovery management amidst of this crisis that we are facing. And for those students who are watching us live right now, please, these are the etiquettes that usually I would give, but I won't discuss that further. For the rest of you who's watching with me right now, you can connect with me on my YouTube channel and at the same time on my Facebook account. Now, let's focus our attention to the topic per se: tourism, hospitality, risk, crisis, and recovery management. And let's be honest, guys, that it is not just the health sector is affected, it's not just the export sector is affected, but it's the totality of what we're facing right now. No one is shall we say, excuse of the crisis that we are facing right now. So this time, I would like to play this video presentation. So please take a look and watch this video presentation first.
I woke up to worlds unknown. Where water is stronger than rock. So I learned to sit back and enjoy the ride. Get washed up on a deserted island. Explore the locals' living history. Perhaps even find a hole in the wall. Or discover a whole new world to be on top of.
So what you have seen actually is a marketing presentation, a video presentation from the Department of Tourism, the government's agency who's handling the tourism sector. And if you remember the taglines that have been used has been used on this video presentation, it's "Wake Up in the Philippines." Definitely, this video was created before the pandemic happened, and definitely we are very inspired to promote the tourism industry in the Philippines that large. That our hashtags were "Wake Up in the Philippines" because we wanted our guests, we wanted our travelers to stay longer here in our in our place, and at the same time together in travel, because we wanted tourists to come and visit us. We wanted them to come in family. We wanted them to visit us in barkada, in group. And at the same time, our the tourism hashtag was travel from home, because we wanted them to feel at home when they are here with us in the country. And let's but some uncertain things happen. Let's take a look and have a look back when this pandemic all started. Let's take a look on this video.
Let's take a look at this video prepared by Sir Franz.
It seems that the video doesn't play. Anyway, let me proceed to the next presentation instead. Let's try to visit. We Filipinos experienced definitely the COVID-19. We were locked down. We were asked to stay at home. We were asked to be in a distance from each other. Schools has been closed and the rest. Church has been closed. Malls has been closed. But don't you know that this presentation, let's take a look and see the major tourist destination in the world. Let's compare what happened before and after pandemic. Let's take a look at this video. Definitely, you're looking into Rome, Italy, before and after. And Spain, of course, heavily dense population and tourists. And this is what happened to Spain during the lockdown. This is France. Definitely, this is where my name has taken. But take a look at Paris, France specifically, when the lockdown happened. This is London in the United Kingdom before the lockdown. And this what happened. An empty street of London. The Vatican City. Can you imagine that there are thousands and thousands of people who would visit this place, most especially to have an audience, to hear a Holy Mass? Italy, another sought after tourist destination. It turns empty. Berlin, Germany as well. And the city that never sleeps became the epicenter of COVID-19 in the United States. New Delhi in India, one of the highly dense populated cities, turned to be an empty city as well. This is Tel Aviv in Israel, and look at what happened during the lockdown. And other cities again during the lockdown. Let's have a virtual tour on the corners of the world where we can consider them as major tourist destination. Look how empty the streets became. All right, so let's move forward to the next slide. So that's how I just wanted on this part of my presentation, I just wanted you guys to see na kung ikaw na depressed tungod kay nag-lockdown ang imong city, ang imong lungsod, take a look onto those major cities in the world where tourist comes in thousands, visitor comes in millions in a year. Tourism is among of those economic sectors most impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. So in 2019, globally, tourism was able to provide 300 million jobs globally. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe you're a hotel worker, a tour guide, a tour car driver, a staff of a restaurant. You're part of the 300 million individual who has been provided job in the year 2019. That's about 29% of the world's service export. And in the year 2019, we were able to record 1.4 billion international tourist arrival. With that 1.4 billion international tourist arrival, we were able to record 1.5 trillion tourist receipts, meaning to say these are the spending of money that we were able to record because of these people who have traveled all over the world, enjoy their vacation, and be a tourist. That was in the year 2008. And in the year 2008, we were able to record $256 billion of passenger transport. And these are the income generated from the airline industry to the bus transport to the railway system. That's in the year 2008. And our tourism export, we were able to record in the year 2008 1.7 trillion income. Sir, what is tourism exports? These are the goods that is needed for a tourism entity, a tourism business, be able to operate smoothly, such as the cleaning agents that our housekeepers are using. These are this undergoes export. There are countries who don't supply this by their own, so they need to import this from other countries. And other things that a resort, a restaurant, and other tourism industry entity needs. So these are the goods and services that being consumed by the tourism industry. And we were able to record 1.7 trillion. But take a look at when the COVID-19 hit globally, we were able, take a look at the arrow, it's dropping down 850 million to 1.1 billion international tourist arrivals. Mauni ang atong gi-forecast na nawagtang sa atua. Sugod, mag-close ang mga borders internationally and locally as well. And because of COVID-19, an estimate of $910 million to $1.1 trillion export revenues was lost in this industry. Now, I've been talking about in the global picture, the statistics globally. Now, let's focus on the future of tourism in this time of pandemic here in our country. So, let's take a look into and let's ponder the future of tourism in the time of COVID-19. The government response in the pandemic under the umbrella or the arm through the Department of Tourism, the hospitality sector, and the stakeholders. Recovery and reopening of tourism destination during this uncertain time. But before digging into that one, then let's talk and let's have a brief of understanding of the tourism industry in the Philippines. Before COVID-19 hit badly the economy, Philippine economy in general was really that booming. In fact, in 2019, we were able to record 800 million international arrival. We were able to welcome 8 million. Sorry, it was not 800, it is 8 million. We were able to welcome 8 million international arrival just last year. And domestic tourism was also thriving. Domestic tourism, if we were able to welcome 8 million international tourist arrival, then we were able to record 110 million number of local trips. These are mga Pilipino na nibiyahe o nisuroy diri sa Pilipinas. So we were able to record last year 110 million. So again, remember, let's try to compare international tourists. We were able to have 8 million. And then for the local or domestic tourism, we were able to record 110 million Filipinos who roam around, enjoy their vacation, and different tourist destination in the country. And because of these records pumped about 2.48 trillion pesos to the economy, pushing the industry's contribution to around 17% of the country's gross domestic product. And the growth of the industry also spared greater employment. Because of this income, it spared greater employment, and we were able to record 5.71 million Filipinos employed or working in tourism-related enterprise last year. That is way up higher from 5.4 million last 2018. With shared employment in tourism-related industries to the country's total employment was pegged at 13.5 roughly. That would be one out of 7 Filipinos were working in the tourism industry. We are looking forward to continuing this positive trend in 2020. The numbers were spiking up. It is so inspiring to see that we were earning, we can provide jobs, we have circulation of money is equal. And but for the first 2 months, January and February of this year, the numbers were still encouraging. Though we were hearing already the emerging health crisis that is spreading in some other part of the country. But by mid of March, the worst case scenario happened. The World Health Organization declared a pandemic. All tourism activities in the country ground to a halt. Everything was put on hold. And imagine and try to picture out how many local and international tourists that time who were stranded, stuck here in our country, and how many Filipinos who were traveling abroad as well, who have been locked down when the borders has been closed. The government immediate response was to ensure the safety and well-being of the tourists who were stranded all over the country when the community quarantine measures was announced. And in fact, the government was able to an estimate of 43,000 tourists, stranded tourists all over the country, was assisted by our government. The government was also able to set up an online response team which has been in charge in addressing travelers' concern, whether they are a foreign national or a local, overseas Filipino workers or overseas foreign workers. That was in March, around the clock. They were working that hard to help these stranded individuals. And luckily, with our hospitality sectors, the government was able to identify resorts and hotels that turned to be the quarantine facilities for those overseas Filipino workers who need to come home. Now, let's talk about what made this pandemic a tourism crisis. Maybe you're hearing a noise right now because it is raining cats and dogs here where am I situated. I hope so, that's just fine. Let's just continue. We have to recognize COVID-19 as a tourism crisis. Kinahanglan nato dawaton that it's not just a health crisis, it is not just an economic crisis. This time, COVID-19 also is part. There are three components that made it into a tourism crisis that you can see on the screen. These three components: disruptive impact, uncertain duration, and little control. These are the main reason why this pandemic turns to be a tourism crisis. When we talk about crisis, basically it is disruptive events, and according to the United Nations, this will take back 5 to 7 years for us to be able to grow back. 5 to 7 years worth of growth will be lost, and 5 to 7 years and estimated for us again to build back completely. And on the global picture, you can see about 10% of the jobs globally are dependent on the tourism industry. And out of that 10%, 7% of the global export are coming from the tourism industry. While in the Philippines, it is much bigger because 13% of the total job population in the country is tourism related or tourism dependent. And on that note, 12.7% of the output of the gross domestic product or the income of the country, 12.7% is coming also from the tourism industry. We have limited control. And we have to face the harsh reality that we have no weapon or tools. Wala tay gahom na pangkontra for this enemy na dili nato makita. We don't have vaccine. We don't have treatment. All we have is the method to control this epidemic in the 20th century. Ang atong gigamit sa pagkakaroon is ang gigamit pa sa mga karaang tao during the 20th century. How did they control those epidemic that spreads all over the world? Ingana pa ang atong gigamit sa pagkakaroon. The wearing of face mask, the social distancing, this lockdown were part of those control methods or control measures that have been used several centuries ago. And this is very economically disruptive. Igo kayo. When you say lockdown, pag mag-lockdown na definitely we are closing the people inside of their home. Once we lock down businesses. We close businesses. Once we close businesses, we are ending a person from their job. We are stopping them from their work. Once we stop them from their work, we stop them from earning. Once they stop from earning, then definitely they stop from eating. Nabay tao na mahunong og kaon? I suppose no. So that's the problem because that's why I said it's highlighted in red. This is very economically disruptive and it's getting out of control. The quality of information and decisions during the crisis are affected by the interplay of different information. In fact, during the early stage of the lockdown, it is becoming stressful in social media because of the downplay of different people also who would like to ride on the crisis existing. Fake news was spreading and uncertain information was spreading. And even us, bisag ako, pag start pa lang sa lockdown, I would always take time in the afternoon, magtanaw ko sa PTV, the government channel, magtanaw ko always, atangan na ko mataghapon, hapon man to sila, ang DOH mag-release around 4 o'clock, mag-release sila sa latest COVID status sa atong country. And every day that you see that information, it's increasing, the death is increasing, the number of people who has been infected, nagkataas, definitely, it seems to be getting out of control. And the role of emotions and instinct was actually also getting out of control. So let's talk about the recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. Must lead to a different economy. The strategy here now, so the previous presentation, focus ta ato was just to look back. Itanaw nato unsay natabo. I have presented to you the numbers, the global impact to the tourism industry, including to the global economy, and in the settings also here in the Philippines. Now, let's talk about the recovery from COVID-19 crisis. The strategy here now is to do things differently. Based on the United Nations has prescribed, we have to recover by doing things differently in order to survive this pandemic. What does it take to do things differently? Manang pangutana, unsaan man nato, Sir Franz, what we need to do to do things differently. Let's look at COVID-19 pandemic as a social force that compromise the capacity of the tourism sector to flourish. So atong tanawon that COVID-19 has compromised the capacity of tourism sector. And on the slide are the 17 goals to transform the world. For us to move forward, let's take a look into sustainability. Kanang solusyon na mulungtad, mulahutay. That's what we call sustainability as a framework. When development is founded in sustainability, situation and actions are viewed on what enables societies to flourish. take a look into the presentation I have. These are the 17 identified by different countries, the 17 goals to transform our world. Number one is, guys, these 17 goals, ladies and gentlemen, these 17 goals to transform our world has been identified before COVID-19. Wala pa niyang COVID. We have identified, the United Nations has identified this already. Number one, to eradicate poverty. And nakabutang bitaw, no poverty, but I will just be sensitive enough. We cannot give it into a shot na zero diretso ang atong poverty, but at least we can minimize poverty, because once we can minimize poverty, we can achieve number 2, that's zero hunger. Walay tao na magutom. Kung tanan makakaon, og sakto na pagkaon, source of food, a healthy food, then we can achieve number 3, good health and well-being. And because of that, one of those goals as well is quality education, gender equality, and so many other things. But the bottom line of this is that we could be better face COVID-19 crisis if and only if we have been further advanced in meeting sustainable development commitments. Mas ligon unta ta na ni atubang sa COVID-19 kung aning 17 ka mga ambisyon, goals, targets para ma-transform nato ang world, para ma-transform nato ang atong country. If we were able to achieve these things, I suppose we have been efficient, and COVID-19 won't be that impacting to us. Travel, let's be honest as well. On my next slide, let's be honest. Travel and tourism are both contributor to the spread of the virus. The movement of people. Basically, and let's be honest, we are moving, when you talk about tourism, that's a movement of people. And this movement of people can lead to the fast movement of virus as well. And the problema nato karon, the tourism industry, who's also a driver of virus, is now very much affected. Increasing pandemic threat. Pandemic are outcomes of anthropogenic impact. Sir Franz, what is anthropogenic impact? Actually, if you are going to take a look into your Google or to your dictionary, anthropogenic impact, this is how the human race harm its environment. With the list that I have there, I would like just to focus 3, those that are in red. Urbanized and concentration of people. This is a problem in our country. And let's accept. I'm not blaming anyone. This is reality. Na mas concentrated ang population sa mga lugar kung asa na ay development. Siyempre, dili po nato na sila ma-blame. Because naa ang trabaho dito. Mas dako ang population sa Manila compared sa Cebu. Because during those days, opportunities was in Manila. That's why we branded Manila before as a dream city. Because ang imong makuha nimo ang imong ambisyon, maningkamot ka, magdagan nimo, magtrabaho ka sa Manila. And if you are going to compare Cebu and Bohol, Cebu is heavily populated compared to Bohol. Why? Because job opportunities is concentrated also in Cebu. Now, if the concentration of urbanization and development was not just concentrated in one location, if it was spread, and I suppose the concentration of people won't be that heavy. Dili ing ana siya kabugat. Why? Because of course people would stay in their locality. Dito sila mangitag trabaho sa ilaha. And transport network as vector of pathogens. Take a look and understand this. That the transportation system that we have in the country, once we open that up fully, I know we have opened that this time, pero minimal lang, but once we fully open that one, definitely it is also another cause for the spread of the virus. It is the vector of pathogens. And the last is damaging human activities on ecosystem and biodiversity. I was able to read an article. Ningon dito na mao siguro ko nung gituyo siguro sa Ginoo nga nung gitagaan niya og COVID-19 ang kalibutan para siguro maayo ang sitwasyon sa ato ang environment because our environment is very much damaged from mountains to the seas to the rivers. Guba na kayo. And then, to be honest po, no, if you are going to take a look and see, for the past, from March, April, May, and then slowly ni hinay-hinay og lift ang mga lockdowns, you will see that the quality of air na atong gi-breathe according to this scientific study na mas ninindot ang atong hangin na giginhawa tungod kay pila ka buwan walay sakyanan na nagdagan, walay factory na nagsunog. And ang atong dagat, if you were able to visit ang mga dagat nato after the lockdown, makita ninyo na murag nakaginhawa pod in tawon ang atong environment. Now let's talk about, and I would like to highlight on this presentation the role of the local government unit as the forefront of sustainability and COVID-19 response. And this is also a wake-up call for everyone na makita nato we should not be dependent to our national government. Looking Philippines as an archipelago, dako unta ang atong advantage na makontrol nato ang paspas na pag-spread because we are separated by islands. We are separated by islands. We are, of course, we have, our borders can easily be closed that easy compared to those countries na they're one big piece of land. One kita, gabahin-bahin ta. Sa yun, unta nato na control ang ato ang COVID-19 if we have local government units. So this presentation, I would like to highlight the role of local government units in reviving as well the economy. That's why, guys, this is also a time. COVID-19 has something to do as well for us to ponder, for us to look into, maayo ba ang atong mga barangay leader? Maayo ba ang atong mga konsehal? Maayo ba ang atong mayor? Maayo ba ang probinsya? Kung asa man mo karon sa Pilipinas, wherever you are in the Philippines. I'm not pointing a specific town, a specific city, a specific mayor, a specific governor. But COVID-19 was able also to unveil and to see from our eyes who are those makainon na maayo na mga leader. And I hope so, it was a wake-up call for all of us na the COVID-19 was able for us to realize kinsa ba ni ang mga tarong na mga leader na naata. So, now let's try to open up the role of the local government unit as the forefront of sustainability. In the country, we have an estimate of 1,600 local government units who could be our potential agent of sustainable development because they are the responsible in opening the tourism sites. Sila'y mas nakaila. Sila'y mas familiar sa ilang lugar. Pinakauna na siya. Responsible of opening their sites, regulating the movement of the people, and creating systems such as assigning zones, regulating land use, identifying the infrastructure development, and even setting the standards of policies to protect the heritage as well as the environment. LGU is really at the forefront and the potential agent in creating sustainable. Again, asbuna ko balik for those students who are watching right now, when you talk about sustainable, these are plans, these are projects na mulungtad, dili ani mga band-aid solutions lang. These are not the temporary solutions lang. Let me also show to you that on the other side, on my next presentation, I will let you familiarize on what had happened on the ground. That our tourism officers, whose role is as tourism officers, turned to be COVID-19 frontliners. The local government unit, tourism offices and officers assume roles to save lives and mobilize resources. And during the pandemic, they have these three major roles. They transfer and they are responsible in transferring and doing an arrangement in transportation for those locally stranded individual who needs to go home into their home country, who needs to go back into their provinces, and they are the one also responsible for those who are going home into their locality. They are, the tourism officers has been also the information and dissemination only if this assessment I am presenting is based on some municipalities na nakita na ko ng ilang mga tourism offices ang nahimong information and dissemination center. But of course, na yung mga tourism offices and officers that they have not done things like what I'm presenting right now. But majority, in fairness. And lastly, they have been the negotiation officer. Of course, can you imagine guys, asking a resort na mapa-oo nimo sila para himuon ang ilang resort as the quarantine facility for the OFWs. You can imagine their negotiation power. Next, from destination manager, and here I suggest, okay, nakita to nako na paghitabo during the COVID crisis. And in fact, again, wala pa ta nahuman sa COVID crisis. We're still on the midst of the COVID crisis. I can only say nahuman na ta sa COVID crisis if and only if we have the vaccine. So since wala pa ta, here's what I am suggesting. And this solution, I would like to suggest to the local government, maybe they are watching us right now, and to our students to realize na dili lang na sila munisipyo lang, dili lang na sila city hall lang. They have a big role. They have, if we have a strong foundation, mura rin dyan nagbalay, humayong atong poste na nagbarog, definitely, ang atong balay, bisag moabot ang bagyo, dili kay na dali-dali matumba. It's the same in the system of government. Kung ligo ng atong mga barangay opisyalis, kung ligdong o ligo ng atong mga municipal and city officials up to the provincial office, then we have a very good working government. So here's my suggestion. From destination managers for our tourism offices, let's turn them to be a local economic managers. Definitely, why? Because our tourism industry is slowly opening up and it's not yet in full blast. O sa may buhaton sa atong mga tourism officers. So, local government must explore ways to prevent the collapse of the local tourism economy. First, we need to facilitate the shift from tourism to non-tourism activities. Introduce alternative forms of livelihood. Imagine how many boatmen, how many tour guides, how many housekeepers who don't have earnings this time. So we need to introduce our local government units to be spearheaded by our tourism offices to introduce alternative livelihood. And from that, we can repurpose tourism program to promote local consumption of tourism goods instead of promoting aggressively promoting for international tourism. This time, let's sit back and focus on realigning tourism program. Instead, let's promote local consumption of tourism goods. And let's create strategic planning and rehabilitation where we can initiate site rehabilitation. Let's focus on sa pagkakaroon wala ba may turista. Let's restore. This is an opportunity sa mga caves na naata, sa mga beautiful white sand beaches that we have. Let's restore them. Let's rehabilitate them. To this mangrove sanctuary, it's our time, samtang wala pa'y turista, and introduced employment for displaced tourism worker. During this rehabilitation, let's hire our drivers sa mga tourist vans. Let's hire this boatman. Definitely, we are helping them as well for a living. Though it's temporary, yes, it's temporary, but at least we are hitting two birds in one stone. We are making ready of our tourist destination, and at the same time, we are empowering our grassroots. Now, let's look into the new normal for our local government units, working and coping in this time of pandemic. Tourism as crisis concerns priorities, and this question actually popped into my head. When to open sites? When is the right time to open our destination? Because if you are going to answer me with a date and then another question I will ask you again for another question, and that would be how to protect the sector. There are two sectors that you need to protect once you open your place as a destination. First, the tourists, your visitors who are coming in. And second is the workers and the people living in the identified tourist destination. And our local government unit needs to align as well how to work with disaster risk reduction management team. We have to align for us to be able to ensure public safety. The tourism offices needs to coordinate with our disaster risk management offices locally for us to realign how to ensure public safety whenever we're planning to reopen. Excuse me, if we wanted na dili na mo worst mo collapse ang atong industry, definitely the only solution is to open our destination for domestic travelers. But these are my question: when can we open? And now, if you are going to answer me with the date, then how to protect the sector, how to protect the tourists themselves who will be visiting. At the same time, how are you going to protect the hotel workers, the restaurant workers, and the people living on the place where it is considered to be a tourist destination? And we have also some individual concerns. The personal safety for our workers in the local government units. They are not superheroes. Tilipod sila exempted sa virus. That's why I don't consider mga issues coming in bitaw tapos maingon ang usa ka chief executive, usa ka opisyal sa barangay sa lungsod na moingon na they are exempted. No, you're not exempted because ang virus dili man mo pili nimo na moingon kapitan man ni dili niya ko takdan, no, right? Diba? So we understand that your personal safety. And on tourism offices, I also understand that the concern of security of tenure. Kasagaran kung kinsa pa ang atong mga gi-assign sa mga checkpoint, mga job order employees pa lang jud to nato sa munisipyo. In fact, most tourism offices in the Philippines na ang ilang mga empleyado are mga JOs. And the capacity concern, alternative work arrangement, dili pa kaya sa kadaghanon sa tawo sa mga local government unit makatrabaho-tanan. And the ability to engage in technology, dili tanan well-rounded to technology. Let's accept that reality. And not all tourism offices and officers and staffs is capable in crisis response. The recovery from COVID-19 crisis must lead us to a different economy. Local government units, tourism offices are crucial in doing this. And here are the two solutions I was able to identify along with this research. LGU Tourism Crisis Management, there are two solutions. Let's skip this one. The first is the phase 1. LGU tourism strategies to transition to the new normal. So this is the crisis phase. And in fact, we are still on this phase right now. Crisis phase, we have identified two major activities: actions to leave no one behind and create conditions for post-crisis action. Another is the phase 2, the post-crisis phase, in which we identified LGU the strategy to transition into the new normal. And there are three major things to consider during the phase 2 or the post-crisis: recovery and rehabilitation, prevention and mitigation strategy, and preparation strategy. Again, we are not yet in phase 2. The way I see things out, we are still on the phase 1, the crisis phase. The solution in 2 stages: crisis and post-crisis. Why we have to divide the solution? And I'm proposing two phases. The first phase is the post-crisis, in which we are post is pagkahuman, and then the crisis phase. Because we need to match the unfolding events. Dili pa man human ang COVID-19, it's still ongoing. So therefore, we need to observe the movement of people who are infected, the age, the gender. We need to consider statistics. And during the time that we are unfurling the events, we are watching into what's going on, let's take the opportunity to partner ourselves and to do a framework where disaster risk reduction unit can work hand in hand with the tourism offices and prescribe high impact action. Now, let's have the post-crisis, the phase 2. First, I mentioned here recovery and rehabilitation. Our local government units are very, very good at this, recovery and rehabilitation. Because why I mentioned they are very good at this, naghanag bagyo ang GUIUAN, linog. Definitely after that one falls after assessment, follows recovery and rehabilitation. During the recovery and rehabilitation, kinahanglan natin sabton how to restore our system, how to reopen our site, and how to resume our operation. But we can only do that if we are going to reimagine tourism. Next slide, please. Recovery requires reimagining tourism. We need to think of tourism industry 5 to 10 years from now. We need to think mamasin tadaan. Before we can say that we can restore the system, before we can say that we can reopen the sites, and before we can resume operation. In our mind, let's reimagine. This requires reimagining tourism. Because let's go to phase 1, protect the elements of the tourism system. Why we need to reimagine? Kinahanglan nato i-foresee, mamasin tadaan sa mga possible challenges na masugatan nato along the way. Why? Because on the phase 1, crisis phase, I mentioned there actions to leave no one behind. Dili lang ni sa DepEd, no? I've heard this already. No students will be left behind. But this time, for this pandemic, as we talk about recovery plan, we need to consider individuals, actions that no one will be left behind. First, that would be saving lives. And beyond that, saving lives is protecting livelihood. And most on this stage, we need to consider those vulnerable sectors. These mga rank and file employees sa mga resort, mga job orders nato sa mga resort, mga driver, mga freelance workers nato, mga boatman nato. They belong to the people that we need to consider that they should not be left behind. We need to save their lives and we need to protect their livelihood before we can restore the system. Next slide. Second is create condition of post-crisis action. Dapat diri ta ni sa phase 1, crisis phase, dapat naana ta diri karon. We need to earn trust, we need to restore confidence before we can reopen our sites. Again, phase 1, we are still under crisis. We need to create condition for post-crisis. Dapat i-ready na nato ang atong self. We need to ready the community. How we can make ready of them? We need to empower them for us to be able to earn their trust and to restore confidence. Both our grassroots workers and at the same time for our tourists or visitors who would be visiting our destination. Invest in communities to build trust and confidence. One thing I remember with the Japanese. Japanese is why I look up high with the Japanese because every time maigo sila glinog, maigo sila og Japan is mostly visited by typhoon, flood, and of course earthquake. Ang ilahang point always is the key to surviving crisis is investing in communities over profit during these turbulent times. And I would like people who's watching this time, you might be a businessman or you might be a politician. Bisayon ni nako, profit is ganansya. Ayaw sa lang na sa natuhunaw-naw ng ganansya mga sir o mga ma'am sa pagkakaroon. If you are a politician, invest on resilient and sustainable projects. Take care of the people. let's focus on restoring the system, reopening the sites, and restoring the operations. Pero ayaw sa atong hunahunahon ang atong pagganansya sa mga project. It's not the time to take advantage on the crisis. Please. And to our businessmen, very good businessmen, the private sectors, this makaganansya man ta, bahalag ginagmay. But the key into surviving this crisis, because once makasurvive na ta, definitely, these people na inyong natabangan will help you back also one day. And the blessings that will come to you will come in hundredfolds. Now, let's move to the next presentation, the post-crisis phase 2. And this is very important. Aggressive ta na mag-open, aggressive ta na ma-restore, aggressive ta na i-empower og mahatagan og trabaho. But again, we need to prevent the second wave. Prevention and mitigation strategy needs to be in place. Huna-hunaan na to, guys. Huna-hunaan na to, ladies and gentlemen. Dili na kaya na to kung sugaton pa na to ang second wave sa COVID-19. Empty na ang atong mga bulsa. Kung baga, ang source of fund na to is already empty. So we need to ensure the safety of everyone, both people working on the government, on the private sector, and in every individual. We need to understand the mitigation and the prevention process. And next slide, I would like to highlight the goal. The goal here is to ensure the the loss and damage experience matag-usa nato. Dili lalimang stress o the loss of lives. For the businessmen, for the government, the loss of earning by individuals would not be repeated again. We need to make sure na dili na siya mausab. And the strategies are in place. First strategy is the non-pharmaceutical intervention. Sir Franz, kung saan na mga non-pharmaceutical intervention? Social distancing, washing of hands, wearing a face mask. These are non-pharmaceutical intervention. These are simple, but please, kapoy na maminaw, pero please, this is the best way that we can do this time. This is the best strategy that we have in place. Contact tracing. And I feel like nagkadaghan ng atong coronavirus, COVID patients sa mga lugar. I don't want to mention places here, pero murag ang atong contact tracing, nagkalaylo lang noon na dapat unta we have trained our people, we have identified a group, a core people to do the contact tracing effectively and efficiently. And we have to think job risk analysis this time. And then implement operating standards where isulod na nato diha ang bag-o na normal, the new normal, until such time na makapangita na ta sa vaccine for us to be able to distribute vaccine. Now, I've been mentioning the local government as the agent to build back better. LGUs is on the phase 2. Suppose sa kahuman na sa COVID-19 na vaccine, we need to be ready on the preparation strategy because during this stage, prevention and mitigation stage, gi-identify nato na masinta na o gipaningkamutan nato na malikayan ang second wave. Now, nahuman na taana. Let's proceed to the preparation strategies. This is now where we will be opening our destination. This is now when we are going to welcome guests again. We need to build resilient intervention. We should not take a look into mga band-aid solutions. Instead, we need to create concrete. Kung mag-open ta, and if we will be strict from booking down to bidding goodbye to our guests, then so be it. Limited lang ang capacity sa mga tourists nato, then so be it. Because naglikay pa man ta. Let's understand. But later on, sa sugod, lisod, but as we go along with this, maanad na lang taana. Now, I've been mentioning, on my next slide, I've been mentioning LGU. Now let's identify the responsibility of the national government. The responsibility over tourism must be shared also by the national government and local government unit. One of those is to prepare and implement tourism development plans. Ikaw, LGU, prepare development plans and forward it to your regional offices. And regional offices take care of that one, arrange everything, and then endorse that to the national government. Enforce tourism standards. we will be enforcing a new normal standard instead and collect statistical data. Still always good for us to collect statistical data. Take a look into my first presentation. Na-identify na to pila ang atong nakuha na trabaho sa turismo. Na-identify na to pila ang income nato sa turismo because we've been doing statistical data collection. Next slide is to create resilient local system to allow flourishing in the new normal. And incorporate resiliency properties in the local tourism system. We need three components for us to create resiliency properties. One is extensibility. Another is flexibility properties. And the last is redundancy properties. Now let's talk about extensibility properties. Our system should be able to forecast or anticipate future changes. That's what we call extensibility. LGU needs to be good at extensibility, forecasting or anticipating things that will happen in the future. Flexibility, we can operate in different contexts. Kundili nato, just like what we're doing this time. If we don't have COVID, I suppose we should be in a face-to-face, one venue, a convention or seminar. But of course, since we are adapting these changes, we have to operate in a different context. And redundancy. What's redundancy? Properties in case the crisis will happen again. Simba lang nako. Do we have alternative work arrangement to allow a local government individuals, the workforce of the government, to effectively move in case the crisis happens again? That's what we call about redundancy. Next. These are our priorities. We have top 7 priorities in tourism recovery. First, provide liquidity and project jobs. When you talk about liquidity, this is the cash flow, the equal distribution of cash for us, for our economy not to fluctuate, for our economy not to back down. And we need to project jobs for those displaced individuals. Second is recover confidence through safety and security. Kung masigurado na to ang atong mga tao na safe sila, definitely they will travel again. And number 3, there should be a public and private collaboration for an efficient reopening. Dili lang ihatag nato sa gobyerno ang responsibilidad. We private individuals need to take part of this. Dili lang po nato ihatag sa private individuals. We need also government to intervene. And fourth is open borders with responsibility. Yes, if once you're confident, it is safe, but you need to make sure that you have to open your borders with responsibility. That later on, mamasin mo daan, that this crisis would happen again, andam mo, muhatag og solusyon. Fifth is to harmonize and coordinate protocols and procedures. Usa pa po din nato na problema. Sa pikas barangay, stricto ang lockdown. Pag abot sa pikas barangay, okay lang. Do we have a harmonized and coordinated protocols? I think wala. Sa pikas lungsod, okay lang. Pag abot sa pikas lungsod, stricto. So that's what I'm pointing out. We need to harmonize and coordinate protocols and procedures. Para walay point of comparison, para dili magbugot-but ang tao. Kung stricto ang usa, din stricto tanan. Kung luag ang usa, din luag tanan. But of course, we need to assess if it's time for us to tighten our belt, or if it's time for us to loosen our belt. Six is added value job through new technologies. We need to foresee now, and of course, totally naahata og embrace the technology. And let's look into possibilities of providing jobs and embracing jobs in the new technology. That's why people who are watching me right now, if you are not well-oriented with computer and using computer, start learning computer. Because this is now the trend, and this won't stop you from earning. And this won't stop the world. Kaya di ka kabalo mag-computer, and then it's not a problem of the world. It's your problem to learn. And seventh is innovation and sustainability as the new world. As I mentioned, innovation. We need to be creative. And dapat ang atuang mga plano ang mulungtad. Dili la kay maggamata og kalsada ug maguba na pod. Magbutang tag project nato na lamppost, ini kasunod semana wala na, guba na pod. We need to have sustainability. And with the crisis that we have, next slide, I was able to identify our strength as a country and weaknesses as well as opportunities that we have. As a country, dili na pangutana, resilient na kayta. Ligon kayta. Being a Filipino, nagyan tag bagyo, nagyan tag linog, but we tend to smile and we still able to stood up. Proven ang atong pagka-resilient. And as I mentioned kaganiha, there are 8 million international tourists who arrived and visited Philippines, but there are 110 million domestic travelers. That's the second strength. Domestic tourism can be our buffer. Adaptation of the capacity, the safety and hygiene protocols must be aligned responsibly. And government support to the sector. I am seeing the government support. In fairness naman po, ang atong mga barangay leaders going up to the municipal level, to the city level, proactive naman so far. And our weakness, ang maulang niya nga atong problema, we also identified, every time that we identify our strength, let's also identify our weakness. One of our weakness is ang kusog nato na income gikan sa mga international tourists. But this is affected this time. And major disruption in airline industry. Definitely, nanay mga nag-declare na mga airline of bankruptcy. Lack of references in previous downturns. Sa naingon pa, wala tay handout sa unsa ang matabo pag COVID. That's why naglisod ta, nagkamang tani. The same time as we build back, we don't have references. Perception of travel is still at a risk. Tanang tawag, huna-huna. Mahadlok pa sila mo biyahe because delikado pa. Low level of demand when we starting to resume due to social distancing. Gamay pa kayo ang demand. Kay sa usa ka eroplano, of course, imagine you guys, one seat apart. Sa usa ka eroplano na dapat 200 ang capacity, mahimo na lang 100. Okay? And it's a big loss to the business. Now let's talk about opportunity. It's our opportunity this time to rethink this new business model. In fact, we've seen businesses that have sprouted and take advantage with the crisis. Innovation and digitalization is the new trend this time. In fact, nauso na ang QR code. And nauso na ang cashless transaction. Sustainability and sustainable-oriented segment, both in rural and natural and health sector. We need to de-escalate phases initiated by several countries towards the new normal and progress in adapting plans in destinations and companies. But we have also identified threats. World recession is our big threat. Rising of unemployment na feel na nato karon is a big threat. Job is at risk. Closure of business is mainly at risk. People don't have disposable income. When they don't have disposable income, definitely they don't make travel as their priority. An extent of lockdowns and travel restriction, and the unknown from the new normal. So these are the challenges and opportunities that we have seen along the way. Next. Let's keep that question. How can you help? Try to ask that to yourself. How can you help this COVID-19? I am a student. I am a housewife. I am a brother. I am a sister. I am a priest. And I am a lawyer. How can you help? Here are the 7 things how you can help. Number 1, ayaw nagdungag-dungag sa problema. Palihog. Do not add to the problem. Do not add to the burden. Problema ng atong giatuba. The best way that you can do is not to be an addition to the problem. Second, simply follow the basic health protocols. Walay mawagtang nimo. Naay matabo nimo kung dili ka mosunod, pero walay mawagtang nimo kung mosunod ka. Because everybody is following it. 3, buy local. Patronize local. Uso pa naman karon ng 11-11, sanin na mga online order platform, online shopping. Don't you know that most of the products being sold on those platforms came from, I won't mention the countries. So this time, akong hangyo ninyo, if nakay ig-agaw na nagbaligyaw barbecue, paliti. Nakay classmate na naggamaog cake, paliti. That's a simple way. Kung wa man kay kwarta na ikapalit, if you have friends who are doing online selling, share and like their post. That would be a big help. Kaupat, do not spread hate and fake news. Sobra na ang mga fake news. Toxic na ang atong social media. Ayun, nagdungag palihog. And take good care of yourself. Ang pingi mong kaugalingon. Of course, mubalik ra gihapon na sa number 1. Kung dili nimo ang pingan ang imong kaugalingon, nagdungag lang ka sa problema sa kalibutan. And help at home. Dili na ko moingon tabangi itong nabagyuhan. Dili na ko moingon tabangi itong naglisod na imong silingan. That's so hypocrite. That's so unrealistic. Kung makatabang ka sa uban, na pag-abot sa inyong balay, bisag paghugas sa plato, dili ka katabang. Help at home. And lastly, pray. Pag-ampo. Walay problema na dili paminawon ang Ginoo. Do your part, and the rest will fall into place. Together, let's bounce forward. I won't say, dili ko mo ingon, let's bounce back. Sorry to say, but most would say bounce back. But I would argue, because getting back to the baseline, pag mubalik, ni jump ka, nibalik ka kung asa ka naggikan, then that's not enough. The goal should be to come back stronger and better positioned for the future. So I say, let's bounce forward together. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Sir Franz, for that very informative talk. Ikaw, Carl, unsa man imong insights about the lecture?
Well, the lecture itself is very informative gyud. And sa atong
Agree.
mga giges ganiha, halos tanang gipangsulti na to or gi-predict na to is nahitabo or na-mention gyud ni Sir Franz. So, the things that I would like to highlight during this live lecture is katong SDG gyud kay I have been attending kanang conventions ito sa Baguio about kining SDG, which is led by Youth Lead Philippines. Ang founder kay si Sir John Maraginot. So murag mga 3 years na sila ko si join ang convention. And then adto nga 3 years, we talk about the different SDGs. And sa kada convention yun, nagna siya main topic nga or main SDG nga isgutan na mo. Like for example katong last na ko nga natinan nga convention kay there was this program or project called sa Luzon man sir ni siya nga katong ito mabuhay or ito malakas something sort of a better daw nga 2040 I guess. It's like a kanang nag-advance sila og envision sa unsa ang Philippines sa 2040 pero karon kay ning abot man si COVID-19 so murag mo balik sa tagamay mo step back sa tagamay and focus on the things that are kailangan nato nga masulbad. And also daghan jud itong gi-mention si Sir Franz no like notes with me guys. So sa ako ang another nga akong i-highlight kay katong roles sa mga sa LGU. Like, yeah, may mga LGU but maybe sa ubang lugar or ubang members kay they're not that active or they're not that supportive when it comes to kanang aiding or kanang helping bitaw people who are in need or labi na karon nga COVID. So kailangan nga murag mas makita or mas mapila ilang presence bitaw nga nagama sila gihani nga project. So Moto, I really love the suggestions and yes, the solutions given by Sir Franz. And ikaw na lang mention ito kway kayo niya mo nga topic and bitaw very very informative siya but even though kanang medyo lengthy siya nga lecture but surely at the end gyud na kay ma-learn and maka-realize ka maka-rethink ka nga you're not doing the right thing or napadi kay mabuhat bisag nara kasi inyuha or bisag kami estudyante lang mena de may mabuhat para sa betterment not just sa province of Bohol pero sa overall nga nation na to, the Philippines. So ikaw kuya, unsa may ma-share nimo nga nakuha sad nimo sa live lecture ni Sir Franz?
So kato bitang nagtanaw ako sa video, like compare niya ang people from last year and today's year. Grabe jud, like it is less festive, it is
Yeah.
less joyous. Like lahi ang vibe. It was not same as before. And kani pod sa role sa LGUs, katong sakto tong giingon ni Sir Franz na we should not be dependent to the government yun. Like it is called delegation man god. Like unsay mabuhat ana nga local government nga dili na sila mag-seek bitaw from the national government. Unsay lang ma-contribute. Unsay lang mo I'm kana dili ni siya sa COVID but the recent bagyong Ulysses.
Yeah.
Yeah, nga. Ilang blame ang government which is you seek first from the LGU. Dili ka mo kuan dayon mo rant dayon sa social media. Use social media wisely. Like instead of spreading hate, matagingan ni sir.
Yeah, and the fake news
Yeah,
stuff.
and fake misleading informations. Ya kana pud sa COVID kanang unclinically proven bitaw
Yeah.
nga mga health alternatives. Yeah, so kani pong kato pong mga solutions gihatag ni sir like support local, Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ito John, local consumerism good. Dapat nga since we are kanang nag-lockdown ta, lisod ang transportation sa different goods, wala kay mga tourists. So kita nga locals, we should then prioritize our local products or our local kanang goods then moto local consumerism.
Have you watched Mayor Babayap's vlogs? Na
Wala
siya
mo
na-
glimpse lang pero not
Yeah.
totally all.
na siya livelihood programs for housewives. Nga, nang hatag siya mga kanang sewing machines. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Then-
hope tanang mga municipality sa Bohol makayana sa, diba?
Yeah, then speaking of katong sa kang Mayor Babayap, also there is sa Tagbilaran kay I've heard nga still ang Youth Philippines kay muraw nakig join or nakig-usab bitaw sa government dira sa Tagbilaran, then natong mga activities I mean like programs nila nga gipanggama, then kalimot jud ko sa mga terms pero for sure si Miss Josie Inglaterra kay naka-attend adto nga mga convention ba to siya, and
Shout out
I
to
really
Ate Joy.
anong support jud ko kayo adto kay dili lang bitaw siya for Tagbilaran City alone pero as a whole siya nga maka-benefit. And also if we try to sum up kanang the informations given or showed here in the live lecture, ang ako jong mas total up siya nako into recovery must lead to a new or different economy. So kaning mga na-experience ato karon nga mga kalisod like kadong COVID-19 and kadong mga bagyo sa Luzon. So murag we should see this or grab this or take this as an opportunity not to settle for less bitaw pero for us to grow, to go outside of our comfort zone, seek for new ways, seek for innovation, and mo lagi to nga recovery from this disasters or pandemic should lead to a new or different nga economy pohon.
I totally agree with that. Kani po sa giingon ni sir nga do your part and the rest will fall into place. We must do our part, guys. Like ug unsay kuan sa government nato, we must follow it. Ana nga way ana kung mag-start ta diha ana na ta makakuan og kanang we are resilient nga maka okay ra data even though na COVID. Right, Carl?
Yes, kway. So, I hope nga dili lang kami ang naka-catch up or naka-learn og daghan kayong informations from this live lecture, but also kamo nga mga viewers, especially kanang mga nag-eskwela or kanang nagtrabaho gyud, hinaot nga as mag-progress bitaw ang panahon nga magkalisod-lisod pa ta, we should stand for each other and sabay-sabay ta nga muangat bitaw like sa gingon ni Sir Franz, no one should be left behind. So, I guess this ends this evening's live lecture kay medyo gabi na sad no? 10 na. So, on behalf of Crystal E College and to everyone who made this live lecture a success, thank you so much. And sa mga viewers na to and sa future viewers, like, ma-replay man ni siya sa YouTube or, yeah, just click the link nga gisend ni Sir Franz or gipost ni Sir Franz or just go to Sir Franz YouTube channel for you to rewatch or to watch, yeah, the live lecture. So I guess that's it, and may all of you have a great evening. Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.